Good morning. Good morning, Shomodip. Welcome to the live class.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So I guess my voice is audible and
Yes,
I
sir.
guess I am visible also. So I am sharing the screen right now. I hope your friends will be joining soon. So please confirm me after I share the screen with you. So right now the screen is getting presented. So now I am moving on to the first content that I will be showing it to you. It will be visible shortly and I hope you will be able to see it. Okay. Yes, I guess the content is very much visible to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So, landscape of the soul, I have already started with this particular chapter and I will be continuing from where I left in my previous class. I left up to conceptual space, so I will be dealing after that, but just let me revise a bit so that the concept become clear to you all once again. I guess some more students are there on the line. Let me admit them. Yes, very good morning, Ayush, and
Good morning.
very good morning. Yes, Mohanjit and Ayush. A very good morning to both of you. Yes, good morning. So now I am moving on. So Mohanjit and Ayush, this particular content is visible to both of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
sir.
Okay. So yesterday I discussed about Chinese painting and Western painting, and I discussed about the main difference between Chinese painting and a Western painting. I guess there is someone on the line. Yes, very good morning, Raghav. Welcome to the live class. Okay, so I guess my voice is audible to all of you. Yes, Raghav.
Morning,
Yes,
sir.
yes. Good morning. Welcome to the class.
Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
good morning. So now let us move on. But before that, let me just recapitulate this paragraph because this paragraph is very important because we get to know that one part of this particular lesson is related with the comparison between the Western painting and the Chinese painting. So let me just recapitulate this paragraph and then I will be moving on to the next paragraph. See, as you know by this time, a classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view as would a Western figurative painting. Now, if you judge it from a landscape point of view, landscape painting point of view, then a Chinese painting may not represent an actual landscape. Unlike a Western painting ultimately will represent an actual landscape because the target of the Western painter is ultimately to attain, or rather to say, his main target was to achieve that illusionistic likeness, as I already discussed yesterday in my class. See, whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it. As I told you, that suppose you visited an art gallery, an exhibition is going on, and obviously wait, I guess there is someone on the line. I think Govind joined us right now. Govind, very good morning. Welcome to the class. Okay, so let us move on. So see, the most important thing is that the European painter, suppose you visited an art gallery, an art exhibition is going on, an European painter is there who has painted some of the pictures and an exhibition is going on. You enter. obviously the European painter will guide you. Okay, you can't have your own interpretation. He will actually be your guide, and he will actually help you to understand his painting. That means ultimately he will want you to borrow his eyes. That means he will see the paintings from his point of view, or rather, to clarify it to you all, that he will actually guide you in terms of his painting. Actually, he will guide you. You have to borrow his eyes in order to know about the painting. You have to borrow his eyes. That means he is the one who will be explaining you the painting, and side by side you will get to know about the painting, not from your own point of view. You will get to know about the painting from the viewpoint of the European painter, because ultimately what is his motive, what is his aim? His motive or his aim is to achieve illusionistic likeness. Okay, see this line, I am repeating once again because this paragraph is very important for your broad question, as well as this paragraph is important for MCQ also. This paragraph is important for objective type questions also. Okay, so let me repeat. Whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it from a specific angle. The Chinese painter, on the other hand, does not choose a single viewpoint. Now, the Chinese painter, he does not choose a single viewpoint. You can analyze, you can appreciate, you can look at the painting from any viewpoint, from any angle. Okay, unlike the case in case of the European painter, the European painter will select a specific angle from where you will be judging the painting. But in case of the Chinese painter, you are free to analyze the painting from whichever perspective convenient to you. Okay, see here it is written, and I highlight because this is a very important line. I guess the highlighted portion is visible to all of you. The Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one, unlike the European painter whose landscape is very real, because as I told earlier, I am repeating myself, that his main aim was to achieve illusionistic likeness. Okay, just a minute, I guess there is someone on the line. Okay, so the main aim of the Chinese painter, European painter, was to achieve illusionistic likeness. And as you know, the Chinese painting, it is more into art and spirituality. It is more related with time and space. Okay, so let us move on. See, the Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point. This is a very important line. Again, I am highlighting this portion. I guess it is visible, and I guess you all can see the highlighted portion, that you can enter the painting. That means not inside the painting. Actually, you can see the painting from any angle which you prefer, and you can analyze it from whichever way preferable to you. There is no such norm that yes, you have to view this painting from a specific angle, from a single viewpoint. It is not like that, because a Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is also not a real one. Obviously, it's a landscape, but comparison to the European painter, it is not so real, and you can enter it from any point. It is more related with art and spirituality, that I repeated consistently earlier also, that it is related with art and spirituality. See, his landscape is not a real one. I guess there is someone on the line. Yes, so I repeat one more time, his landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point. This line is very important. Definitely, that means he will not be guiding you, just like the case in case of the European painter, who will be guiding you. Okay, but Chinese painter will show you the way. and then you have to move on your own in order to appreciate the painting. And the more deeper you get inside a painting, inside means doesn't means that inside the entire painting, the more deeper you appreciate the painting, the more you will be understanding the beauty of art and spirituality related with a Chinese painting. Okay, see, the landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it. The artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down. Yes, obviously you can, the artist means here it refers to the Chinese painter. Okay, dear students, the Chinese painter ultimately creates a path for your eyes so that you can travel. Another meaning of travel is traverse. I repeat, another identical synonym, very much identical to travel, is traverse. Traverse. Okay, see, the artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down, then back again in a leisurely movement. You can travel up and down, then you can come back again in a leisurely movement. That is the reason I referred earlier, and of course in the course of the discussion again I will be referring to that it is an exercise both physical as well as mental in order to appreciate a Chinese painting. Okay, so I am moving on once again. See this line. This is even more true in the case of the horizontal scroll, in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. As I told you, it is related with time and space. So when you are opening up one section of the painting, it is ultimately leading you to the other section of the painting, and ultimately what happens? It ultimately adds a dimension of time, and this thing you won't notice in any other form of painting. That is the reason I told at the very beginning of the class, it is not only philosophical and spiritual, but it is the Chinese painting, dear students, it is related with time and space. Okay, it's very important for you all to know. And in order to appreciate a Chinese painting, as I told you, it will be an exercise that is both physical as well as mental. And not only that, you have to enter the mind or psyche of the painter. You have to enter into the mind of the painter in order to fully appreciate the work of art in case of a Chinese painting. Okay, see, I repeat, it then rolling it up to move on to the other adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. This dimension of time related with time and space, and to achieve the highest level of spirituality in terms of art and beauty, this thing you may not find in other form of painting. This is exclusively related with Chinese form of painting or Chinese art form, we can say. You can say Chinese form of painting, or you can say Chinese art form. Okay, it also requires, this is a very important line, I am underlining the entire thing, I am highlighting the entire thing, very important for your reference to the context. Dear students, today already in Google Classroom I have uploaded, in WhatsApp I will be sending after the class gets over some extract based questions. Okay, that means maybe few lines given from the text will be highlighted, and based on that highlighted portion or based on that paragraph that will be extracted from the text, questions will be given. Okay, and you have to answer it, but in order to answer it you have to read that paragraph very well, because the answer is inside that particular paragraph. So as I told you that I have given those questions today, okay, reference to the context, or as you know, extract based questions. Normally we used to do it from poems and dramas, but it is important that we should do it from literature part also, particularly from prose. Okay, so this particular paragraph that just now I have highlighted, let me remind you, it is very, very important. See what it is written here. it also requires the active participation of the viewer. Now, if you casually participate, then you won't be appreciating the Chinese painting at all. Remember, it was the Emperor Wangzong who appreciated the painting that was painted by the mysterious, famous, legendary painter Wu Daozi in the 8th century, but there was no active participation of the emperor. That was the reason he stayed outside, whereas Wu Daozi entered the painting by traveling inside the cave that was located inside his own painting, and after that he was never seen again, neither the painting was seen again. So active participation of the viewer is required. You have to fully focus your mind, okay, in order to appreciate a Chinese painting. That is the reason it is an exercise of the mind and the senses. That is the reason I told you that in order to appreciate the Chinese painting, participation should be based both on physical as well as mental participation on the part of a viewer. Okay, see here, participation. What is the meaning of participation, dear students? The meaning of participation is involvement. So there should be a total concentration, there should be a total involvement, now which should be physical as well as mental. Okay, see this line. It also requires the active participation of the viewer who decides at which pace he will travel. Now obviously it entirely depends on the viewer at which pace he will travel in case of his painting, okay, or in case of the painting as been projected by the Chinese painter. It depends on a viewer how he will be judging the painting. Okay, obviously you have to travel through the painting. That doesn't mean that you will be getting inside the painting. It is not like that. Travel through the painting means you have to deeply focus in order to understand the nuances of the Chinese painting that ultimately attains spirituality. Okay, see the participation which is physical as well as mental. See this line, very important. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes, unlike the European painter, because the European painter will be guiding you. You can't interpret the painting on your own. The European painter will be guiding you. But the Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. He wants you to enter his mind. I guess a few minutes earlier I referred to this particular very important concept, that in order to appreciate the Chinese painting, you have to enter the mind of the painter. Okay, you have to know, you have to understand the painter before you understand the painting. Am I clear to all of you? You have to know about the painter. You have to understand the mind of the painter. You have to understand the psychology or psyche of the painter. Then only you will be able to appreciate the painting. See, I am repeating this line before I move ahead with my discussion. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes, but the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes, that he will be guiding you. He will be actually referring to you to see the painting from a particular fixed point. Okay, but a Chinese painter will leave you, okay, so that you can follow the way, you can appreciate the painting from whichever angle you prefer. There is no norm as such that you have to appreciate it from a particular angle. It is not like that. Okay, see, the Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. He wants you to enter his mind. You have to enter the mind. You have to understand the painter first. Then only you can totally appreciate the painting. Just a minute, I guess there is someone on the line. Okay, now let me move on. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. He wants you to enter his mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. Very, very important. The landscape is ultimately an inner one. A landscape is a spiritual and conceptual space. Now, this is a very abstract, okay, conceptual space here means something that is very abstract. As I told you, the landscape painting in terms of a Chinese school of painting, it is spiritual, it is time dimensional, it is related with time and space, and obviously attaining the highest pinnacle of perfection in case of painting. That was attained by whom? It was attained in the 8th century by Wu Duozi. And it seems that he attained that highest level of spirituality in terms of his painting, that he entered his own painting and disappeared, and never ever the artist was seen again. So this line is very important. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. That is something that is very important. Okay, that means related with time dimensional. As I told you, related with time and space, it is philosophical, it is spiritual. Okay, in order to understand a Chinese painting, there should be an active participation on the part of the viewer. Okay, not only that, the involvement not only should be active on the part of the viewer, it should be physical as well as mental, because ultimately at the end of the day, dear students, the Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. He only wants you to understand him. And how you can understand him and appreciate his artistic sensibilities? Obviously by entering the mind of the painter. Okay, so any doubt up to this? Any problem? Any questions on your part? Or is it clear to all of you, dear students? Is it clear? Shall I move on to the next paragraph? Raghav and others, Shomodeep and others, Vishwajit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it is clear? Okay, fine. So I am moving on now. Now the important thing is that San Shui. This is a very, very important concept. And remember, this paragraph is also very, very important. Okay, part 1 of this particular chapter I will be dealing today. Tomorrow part 2 of this I will be dealing. Part 2 is related with raw art or art brut. That is outsider art. That part I will be dealing tomorrow. But today let me concentrate on the final portion, and this final portion is very, very important. It is the concept of San Shui. Dear students, very important for broad question. Okay, important for MCQ, short question, whatever you might say. This part is very, very important. So as I told you, I am repeating once again that in a live class you should carry a notebook and a pen by your side, because you can jot down the important points as I discuss, because that will help you in the long run. Okay, because everything may not be there in the text. Something I have to interpret, I have to explain on my own. Those things, those points, you can jot it down, because those things will be helpful to you later. Okay, having said that, let me define San Shui. Dear students, San Shui actually means mountain water. Now there is a breakdown of this. Okay, we will get to know. Now San Shui literally means mountain water. The concept of San Shui is very interesting. Or dear students, I must say the concept of San Shui is highly interesting. See, which used together represent the word landscape. That means mountain plus water. Okay, ultimately equals to landscape. There lies the concept of San Shui. More than two elements of an image. Two elements, obviously mountain and water. These are the two elements. These represent two complementary poles, reflecting the Daoist view of the universe. And remember, this Daoist view, it came from that particular 8th century painter Wu Duozi. Daoism or Daoist view, this particular concept of theory evolved from his name. Okay, Wu Duozi. See, the mountain is yang, yin and yang. You have to understand what is yang and what is yin. Important for short question, very important. See, the mountain is yang, reaching vertically towards heaven. Okay, and what are the characteristics of yang? It is stable, it is warm and dry in the sun. Remember, yang is masculine, okay, whereas yin it is feminine. See, and we can say yang is the masculine aspect of universal energy, yin is the feminine aspect of universal energy. Okay, see, the mountain is yang, reaching vertically towards heaven, stable, warm and dry in the sun, while the water is yin. Okay, it is feminine. And what are the characteristics? Remember, the characteristics of yin and yang are vastly different from one another. Okay, because if yang is stable, warm and dry, and if it is the masculine aspect of universal energy, then yin is the feminine aspect of universal energy, and the characteristics of yin are very much different from that of yang. Okay, totally opposite. See, that is vertical. I guess you have seen, vertically towards heaven, it is horizontal. Okay, understood everyone? So the characteristics are exactly different. They are complementary to each other, but their features are very much in contrast to one another. Because yang, it is reaching vertically, whereas yin, it is horizontal. Okay, yang is vertical, yin is horizontal. Okay, and resting on the earth. See, what are the characteristics? What are the characteristics of yang? It was stable, warm and dry in the sun. I have highlighted right now. But in case of yin, it is, see, fluid, moist and cool. Okay. And remember the interaction. Interaction means the meeting. Ultimately, the meeting point is the interaction, we can say. The interaction of yin. Yin is the receptive. Okay. The feminine aspect of universal energy, as I told you. Yang is the masculine aspect of universal energy, yin is the feminine aspect of universal energy, and its counterpart yang, active and masculine, as I told you, is of course a fundamental notion of Daoism. That means the concept of Daoism. Notion means the ideology, notion means the core concept. Remember one thing, dear students, the fundamental concept of Daoism rests upon yin and yang. And obviously, there is a third element also. Apart from yin and yang, there is an essential third element that is noticeable in a Chinese painting. That third element is known as the middle void. What is the meaning of void? Can any one of you say what is the meaning of void? When I discussed the poem Photograph, I told you what is the meaning of the term void. Can any one of you at least guess what is the meaning of the term void? Yes?
The end part of the world.
It is something that is related with emptiness. Okay, voidness means emptiness. Okay, actually it is the unpainted white portion in a Chinese landscape painting that is related with the middle void. Something you can say voidness means emptiness. And obviously, the middle void plays a very important role in the interaction between yin and the yang. See, it is written. It is often overlooked as an essential third element. Normally, we talk about yin and yang. Okay, dear students, we don't talk about the middle void region so much. Actually, in the middle void region, the interaction takes place between the yin and the yang. Okay. This can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayam. And what is the yogic practice of pranayam? Breathe in, retain and breathe out. Okay, I guess in physical education you have read about pranayam. I guess you have seen the exercise pranayam also. So what is the mechanism related with this particular yogic exercise or this yogic practice of pranayam? Breathe in, then retain the breath and then breathe out. Normally we are not so much concerned with the middle void, but dear students, we should not overlook the middle void, because ultimately the meeting or the interaction that successfully occurs between the yin and the yang, it is possible only because of the middle void. Okay, see, and this middle void, this particular mechanism of middle void, dear students, you can compare with the yogic practice of pranayam. Now, what is that yogic practice? What is the mechanism of pranayam? Breathe in, retain and obviously breathe out. Okay, the suspension of breath is the void. Where you are suspending the breath, the suspension of breath, that part is the void region. Now in this void region, here actually the meditation part occurs. And remember one thing, the middle void is essential. Nothing can happen without it. Yes, the middle void is very much essential, very important. Without the middle void, the entire mechanism will not occur. The mechanism that is related with the interaction between yin and yang, it will not occur. Okay, without the function of the middle void region. And remember, the suspension of breath is the void region where actually the meditation occurs. So it is because of the middle void region, particularly the interaction between yin and yang is possible. See, it is written, and we should not overlook, we should not ignore the middle void region because it's very important. See, the middle void is essential. As I told you, it's very important right now only. Nothing can happen without it. I told you the interaction between yin and yang, it and the mechanism, the smooth functioning of the mechanism of yin and yang, it won't be possible without the presence of the middle void. So ultimately, dear students, we can say the middle void region is essential. See, the middle void is essential. Nothing can happen without it. Hence the importance of the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape. That is actually the middle void region. Particularly in a Chinese landscape painting, the white unpainted part of the Chinese landscape, that part is actually referred as the middle void. Okay, because normally in a Chinese landscape painting, you may not find the descriptions or you may not find all the details accurate. It is all about ink and brush. There lies the spiritual and artistic beauty of a Chinese painting. And obviously, the white unpainted space in the Chinese painting, when you look at the landscape Chinese painting very cautiously, you will find a particular region. That region is actually the white unpainted space. Dear students, that white unpainted space is actually in the Chinese landscape, that is actually the middle void region. Okay, you will find in the Chinese landscape painting a white unpainted part. Okay, that means that part is left without any sort of drawing or without any sort of painting with the ink and brush. That white unpainted space is actually in Chinese landscape, it is referred as the middle void region. Remember, we should not ignore, we should not overlook the middle void region. Okay, see this line, I repeat, because the concept should be very clear. The middle void is essential, it's very important. Nothing can happen without it. Hence the importance of the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape. Yes, that is the reason. Nothing can happen. The mechanism related with yin and yang, even that one won't be possible without the middle void region. Hence, there lies the importance. Hence, there lies the significance of the white unpainted space in the Chinese landscape. Remember that white unpainted space in the Chinese landscape is actually the middle void region. Okay, now let us move on to the next paragraph. Any doubt up to this? Any doubt about yin and yang? You can ask me. Any doubt? Dear students, Raghav and others, any doubt? Vishwajit, Shomodeep, any doubt? Anyone? Anushko, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So let us move on now. We are at the final portion. The chapter doesn't end here because there is a part 2. The part 2 portion I will be discussing tomorrow, not today, because the part 2 is a bit different from the part 1. And today we will be completing part 1. Okay, see, And then I will be revising the points from that particular note section that already I have given earlier, so that ultimately the revision side by side can be done also. See, last paragraph, this is also where man finds a fundamental role. Now, if you consider it from the universal perspective also, then remember, in that space between heaven and earth, he becomes the conduit of communication. Conduit of communication means the main communicator. He is the one who actually links the heaven and earth. Now, if we consider the entire mechanism of yin and yang and the middle void from a greater perspective, or rather to say from a universal perspective, then we should know that actually the most important thing is that our role is very important. We are acting as a middle void in the interaction between heaven and earth, because ultimately this line is important. He becomes the conduit of communication between both poles of the universe. Ultimately, it is the most important thing is that ultimately it is the human being, and the human being acts as the medium of communication. Conduit of communication means the medium of communication between both the poles of the universe. What are the two poles? Heaven and earth. Now, we are considering the mechanism of yin and yang from a greater perspective, from a universal perspective. In that case, the function of man is that we human beings, we actually plays a very fundamental role. We are actually the conduit of communication. We are actually the linker, the main medium of communication between both the poles of the universe. And what are both the poles? One is heaven, another one is earth. And we are the linker. We are the conduit of communication between both the poles of the universe. His presence is essential. The presence of the human being is essential, even if it's only suggested. Far from being lost or oppressed by the lofty peaks, he is, in Francois Cheong's wonderful expression, the eye of the landscape. Now, Francois Cheong, you can say he is an artist, he is an art critic also. Now, according to him, we are actually, if we consider our role, we obviously play, we human beings, man definitely plays a very fundamental role. And obviously, according to Francois Cheong's wonderful expression, we are the eye of the landscape, because ultimately it is the human being who becomes the conduit of communication, the medium of communication between both the poles of the universe, that is heaven as well as earth. Okay, something that is very important. So now let me move on, and as I told you, from which book it has been taken. See, it is written, very important for MCQ. See, it has been taken from Landscape of the Soul, Ethics and Spirituality in Chinese Painting. It is slightly edited a bit. This is the main source material. Remember, in MCQ, this is very, very important. What is the name of the text from where it has been taken? It is actually taken from the Landscape of the Soul, Ethics and Spirituality in Chinese Painting. That is the name of the main book. From that main book, it has been taken. Just before I end, I am now about to show you the important thing. Yes, this particular note I want to show you. I guess it is visible to all of you. Just whatever we have read, slightly I want to discuss about that. We read about the middle void. Yin is feminine, yang is masculine, and remember, these are the fundamental energies. Okay, one is feminine, one is masculine. Two energies, ultimately it makes the universe. This is entirely Chinese philosophy, and their meeting point, the meeting point between the yin and the yang, is actually the middle void. And remember, the middle void actually holds a very important significance, but it is overlooked. Many a times, dear students, it is overlooked. And remember another important thing, it is associated with pranayam, that is breathe in, retain and breathe out. Okay. And remember, the void is most essential, because it is in the middle void region where the meditation actually occurs. And what is Sanshui means? I told you it is actually a combination of two words. Shan means mountain and Shui means water. Okay, that is. However, remember, it doesn't represent a real landscape. This is actually related with the notion or the concept of the theory that was been from Daoism or Wu Daozi. It is actually in order to understand the theory that has been taken from his name. You have to understand this Sanshui, that is mountain water. Again, that yin and yang, that as I already referred. Now another important thing is that, as I told you, the middle void is the region I highlighted where the interaction between the yin and the yang take place. And finally, what we have read, dear students, that man is the medium of communication. If you take it from a broader perspective, if you take it from a universal perspective, dear students, then man is the medium of communication between the two complementary poles of the universe. And ultimately, you can see his presence, you can see the influence of man, you can see the presence of man in the Chinese paintings also. That means man acts as a conduit of communication between the two complementary poles of the universe, that is the heaven and the earth, if we consider it from a bigger perspective. Okay, and all these things are associated with the Chinese painting. Remember the concept of Sanshui, yin and yang, middle void region, very important from the perspective of examination point of view. Okay, so I stop here. First part is completed. Tomorrow I will be discussing about the concept of raw art, or what we can say art brut. This one I will be discussing tomorrow in the class. Thank you everyone for a patient hearing. Have a nice day. Thank you everyone. Thank you, dear students.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.